Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of my opinions about classical music. I hope all of you have had a great day and are ready for some light analysis and opinions about Clair de Lune by Debussy. This piece was suggested to me by Julia Fuentes. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you for the suggestion. It's a great suggestion. I've really wanted to do this piece for a long time, so here goes. And also before we start, I want to remind you to press the subscribe button, and also if you like the video, press the like button. And if you don't like the video, tell me what could be improved in the comments. And really, just thank you for being here. I hope you liked the video as much as I liked making it. The first thing about this piece I want to talk a bit about is time. The time of this piece isn't really obvious until you get a bit out in the piece. And even then it kind of feels a bit offbeat. You can't really place the time signature, even though if you look at the score and listen to it, you can kind of figure it out. It isn't really until after he's introduced the first theme that we can place the first beat of the bar properly. I think Debussy is really clever with where he places the first downbeat of the entire piece, because it's not on the first downbeat of the first bar. It just sort of implies that there's something that was there but is not anymore. Which probably could be a metaphor for something, but I don't know what that would be. And then he introduces these duals. I think they're called duals, I'm so sorry if they're not, but in Norwegian they're called dueler. So that's what I'm going with. But they throw off the time even more. I've marked the duels in purple, by the way. And these particular duels are 2 against 3. So that means that you fit 2 notes into the space where 3 notes usually would fit. So they're longer and kind of stretches the time in a really interesting way. It kind of feels like he's borrowing a bit of time from the universe in a way. In the first part he also writes expressive as a character marking, which means that the musician can kind of pull a bit on the timing of things, which makes the time even more loose in this part in a way. But then when we move to the second part, he actually writes tempo rubato, which means that the musician is pretty much free from the tempo markings he put before. And then it's up to the performer to actually stretch the time and make music with what Debussy has written. And I really like that style of composing where you give the musician freedom to express something. Because a lot of music, especially modern music today, is written in a way that the composer is the sole artist and the musicians are just vessels to perform the composer's idea. And I don't think that is the best way to go around it. I think it's important to let the musician express themselves. But anyway, after that small rant, I really just also want to mention that Debussy is really good at stretching time with the duration he's using. For instance, like I mentioned the duals, but he also does it in the other direction where he compresses time. He does this by adding more notes in a smaller amount of time. This is the most obvious in the transition into the third part, where he goes back to the opening theme. So actually, instead of listening from the top like I usually would, let's listen just to the transition into what I consider to be the third part, where the first theme comes back, because I'm pretty sure most of you know the main theme. What I want you to pay attention to in this part is when it feels like it's going forward and moving ahead, and when the piece feels like it's coming to a stop and just observing the world around it. So, did you make note of where you think it was moving fast and where it was moving slowly? Here's what I think, at least. And of course this will change from performer to performer, but in this particular version, this is how I feel like it's moving. If we start from the part here that I've marked in blue, this part feels fast. It feels like it's moving forward, it wants to go somewhere. And I think we get this feeling because of the fast-moving arpeggios under the slow-moving melody. And then we get to the first time the opening theme comes back, and I feel like it slows down a bit here, even though you have the 16th notes that kind of it makes it feel like it's moving forward. We get these breathing breaks, and I feel like that slows the whole vibe down a bit. We kind of went from running to jogging in a way. But then we get the recap of the opening that's pretty much the same as the opening was in the very beginning, and I feel like here we kind of stop and smell the flowers, you know? But of course this is a bit subjective, so if you agree or if you disagree, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your opinion about where the piece in general, actually, not just this part, but in general, where it slows down and where it speeds up, like the vibe of it. Where is the slowest part in your opinion? The slowest part in this piece for me is this part right here, that's also marked in blue actually. Because this part right here is really just sparkles. That's all there is to it. This is the stars of Starry Night. You know, the beautiful painting by Vincent van Gogh? By the way, if you're Dutch, please let me know how to pronounce his name, because I literally can't. Gogh? Gog? No, it's not Gog. I'm going with Go, but you know, let me know. So let's just play a few bars before this and a few bars after this while having Starry Night on screen. And then let me know if you agree that this is the star part, the sparkles, or the moonlight, if you will. This is absolutely beautiful in my opinion. This is my favorite part of the entire piece. These two bars that are marked in blue here. And I really think that's because the chords feel not like chords in a way. They don't feel like structure, they feel like the painting on the building and not the concrete. But it also kind of feels like the painter just kind of splattered the paint on there. And I think part of the reason why I really like Debussy's tonality is because he's really good at adding dissonance that doesn't feel like the harshest dissonance there is. When I went through the Dvorak 9th Symphony, I talked a bit about minor seconds, which when played together sounds pretty harsh. But in this dreamy landscape Debussy has painted with this piece, this harsh kind of dissonance doesn't really work out. So what he's done instead is moved the minor seconds up half a step so he gets major seconds, which is basically the first two notes of a major scale. Like if you have, for instance, C major scale, you have a C, which is the first note of a C major scale, and a D. They sound like this. Or if I put them at the same time. Which in my opinion sounds less harsh than if I had used C and D flat. Now I'm just going to assume you agree with me when I continue talking about where this is the most obvious. Because it's actually not the most obvious in my favorite part, it's the most obvious in the opening. The entire piece is mostly based on thirds, which is what most chords are made up of. Thirds are the basic of most chords and music today. But Debussy adds some major seconds here and there. which kind of just adds a little bit of extra spice. I've marked them out in the score in yellow, so you can listen out for them as we listen to the opening of the piece. Beautiful, you can really hear the moonlight in this, in my opinion. So I did think we were going to play the whole thing, but before we do that I want to mention some form related things as well. Or rather, key related things. The whole piece is kind of divided into 3 parts. And the 3 parts are marked by different key signatures. We have this part, which has 5 flats, this part with 4 sharps, and then back to 5 flats again for the 3rd part. And as a small disclaimer, this idea I've had about this piece is loosely based on Adam Neely's video called Why is Major Happy? And I will definitely link that probably on screen if I can manage, and also in the description. But just to summarize a bit, the part with the 4 sharps will feel brighter to listen to than the part with the 5 flats. The part with the 4 sharps is relatively short and it doesn't really stand out when you go into it, but when you move out of it, it really feels like you've made the flat part sadder in a way. Let's listen from a few bars before the part with the 4 sharps come in, and a few bars into the next part with the 5 flats. It kind of feels a bit sadder than it was before, doesn't it? Or maybe I'm imagining things, who knows. But the point is that the entire rest of the piece feels, to me at least, a bit more melancholic after we've had the experience of the brighter key. And that means, of course, that when the opening theme comes back, it also feels a bit more melancholic in a way. And I think Debussy is really clever for using more or less the same material. We're getting a different feeling because you had something else before. And that's definitely a technique I will be taking with me in my own compositions. Now with that in mind, let's just listen to the whole thing. I've marked the key changes for you so that you can listen out for those. That was everything for this time. Thank you so much for watching. If you want, you can subscribe, and I would be very happy if you also liked the video. And I hope you'll continue to have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye!